With this class, we'll be moving to a new topic, that is forming process, into the final unit of our syllabus. Come to the forming process, there are forming is the process actually that converts the objects into the required dimensional status. Either it may be processed by the execution of the external cutting process, or else application of pressure, nothing but by the application of pressure. Third one is by the application of pressure plus as well as the temperature. Nothing but we'll be saying that as a resistance state of welding. In the conditions of welding strategy, we'll be following that particular point. So that is in the form of connectivity of the objects. Either it may be of the similar kind or else the dissimilar kind of the materials. But here in the forming process, transferring of the materials from one dimensional status to the another dimensional status that actually we require as per the vendor specifications. Here, let us look about the forming process. Nothing but in order to transfer the circular object, a particular diametric object which has been characterized into particular profile containing gear manufacturing. Moving on to the basic introductory part of the gear manufacturing. Nominally, gears are the devices which are very widely utilized for transmission of the power from one element to the another element with the help of the linkage, such as a chain system. Usually, we use it to look out on different automobile applications, such as our gearboxes, oil engines, machine tools, agriculture machinery, geared motors, industrial machinery, etc. The some of the examples. In order to achieve the perfect velocity ratio and we need to satisfy service under the conditions, the gears plays a major implication for reliable performance, high efficiency, economy, and high range, but having a good life or long life for the objects. Normally, these gears should be fatigue free. Nothing but fatigue. Generally, you know that the repeated stresses that are being imposed on the object, and usually it will be free from the high stresses, and nominally it have the resistance for having the frequent failure conditions. Nominally, the gear drives should be manufactured or else should be kept in contact for the power transmission, that in order to have no noise and strategy and ensuring that heaviest loads should be carried the two at a constant velocity ratio. Nominally, hence, in the our DMM subject point of view also will be clearly specifying with respect to the mathematical relations that apart with the almost all the driving systems for power transmission between one object to the another object or directional changes of power from one direction or generated direction to the other directions, the different connectivities will meet the desired specifications to be obtained or reliable specifications or conditions in order to achieve. So hence the gear manufacturing plays a major important role for having a better efficiency and high velocity ratio in order to transmit the heaviest loads without any slipping factor. So these are the conditions that will be achieving by the gears, and hence gear manufacturing has become a highly specialized field in the present day world and ruling in the automation technology, automobile technology, actually, in different fields, aviation technology, train system, railways, roadways, airways, waterways, and almost all the systems in some domestical purpose, industrial purpose, and medical fields, and almost all the areas, this gears systems are facing a major important role for the commencement of works. Coming to the manufacturing of gears, we are having different processing operations which are having an series of order that performing the blank without or with the teeth, annealing of this blank, as if it is required, preparation of the gear blank to the required dimensions by the machining, full or surface hardening of the machined gear, producing the teeth or finishing the performed teeth by machining, inspection and testing of the finished gears. These are the different processing methods that are existing for manufacturing of the gas. Coming to the gear manufacturing, it involves two different stages. Or normally we'll be calling the main gear manufacturing classified into two main groups. First one is the forming process, and the second one is the machining process. Coming to the forming process, it means getting the shape by the plastic deformation in which volume remains approximately before and after the process. There is nothing but changing of the shape plastically. So plastical deformation in the sense permanent dimensions that will be getting achieved after the commencement of the working process. Nominally, in this, the volume remains same even before the transmission and even after the achieving of another dimensional accuracies. So the weight factor will be the same, or else the volume factor will be the same. As a best example, it will be consisting of the direct casting or the rolling process, which the highest diameter containing rolls will be reducing in its diameter and increasing in its length orientation. Powder metallurgy, injection molding, drying process, extrusion process, stamping, forcing, etc. of the tooth forms in molded, powder, and heat softened materials. Normally, the machining is the process which involves different process such as a finishing process, and before that, the cutting process, shaping, planing, roughing, slotting, broaching, welling, grinding, carving process, etc. will be considered for the MRR aspect conditions. Nothing but the material removal conditions. Let's have a detailed look regarding the farming methods for grain manufacturing. Initially, the earliest and oldest methodology existing for the manufacturing of gears or casting process. In this casting process, we'll be preparing the molds which are having with its permanent dimensions, and with that sand molds the required as per the required material of the vendor, the molten metal is prepared and is poured in the mold cavity in order to get the molded representation or a replica of the mold to be achieved by the gas. Cast iron gears are having nominally a rough in nature, particularly having less strength when compared to the mild steel and stainless steel, and that too with some inaccuracies when its dimensions will be occurring. Nominally, this is the process where it will be getting manufactured and obtained at a low economical range. Nothing but the manufacturing cost will be getting reduced, whereas the object after getting manufactured, its cost will be very much less. Nominally, this casting process was preferred for manufacturing large sized gears. That too, cost and the power transmission are very much important than the operating accuracy and the noise levels. An inclusion of this sand casting, even by including in the sand casting different molding process such as permanent mold casting, centrifugal casting, investment casting, and die castings plays a major role in the case of the manufacturing of the gears, different types of gears, by utilizing this casting process. Coming to the sand casting process, let's have the detailed characteristics and the types of materials that can be utilized for supporting the sand casting process and applications where we'll be utilizing this sand casting gas in the real-time fields. Coming to its characteristics, the casting process is very much less in economical range, and even the quality of the gap is very much small, and it is very much less you can compare, and even this will be prepared in a small in number. Normally, the tooling costs are reasonable from the economical point of view. Nominally, it is very much poor in its surface finishing and dimensional accuracies. Because of its low precision and high back ash, there will be having a minimal or minute noises that will be continued throughout the operational process. These are well suited for the non-critical applications. The materials that are being utilized in the sandcast processing are cast iron, cast steel, bronzes, brass, and ceramics. Normally, this sand casting process is confined to large gas that are machined later to a required accuracy. Basically, the sand casting is suitable or utilized for having without finishing operations. Most probably, it is utilized for manufacturing the toys, small appliances, will be utilizing in the case of our domestical aspects, cement mixer barrels, hoist gearbox of dam gate lifting mechanism, hand operated crane, which we use usually verifying for the material leaking and some distant processes. And to the die casting process, forcing the molten metal under a high pressure into the mold cavity, such as the injection molding range. Similarly, equal to the injection molding is not to that much of it according to the injection molding. Here, the molten metal will be existing in the furnace, which are having the greatest temperature range. And normally, the small cavity is being forcing into the mold cavity, that too using the hardened steel dies which are having a particular gear shapes as per our required dimensions. Coming to its characteristics, having better surface finishing and accuracy than the sand casting process. Here, on the operational sectors, will be having the high tooling costs is well suited for the large scale of production. Coming to the materials which are utilized in the case of this die casting process, zinc, aluminum, brass, are utilized in the case of this die casting process. Normally, the gears which are manufactured from the die casting process, these are not used for high speeds and heavy tooth loading processes. Finally, these are applied for small size gears. Best examples or applications such as minimal instruments such as cameras. Instruments are nothing but the measurable instruments, screw gears, micrometer, and the cameras with a minimal zoom in and zoom out capabilities, business machines, washing machines, gear pumps, small speed reducers, and lawn mowers. Coming to the investment casting process, investment it clearly specifies that it's an arresting or else surrounding. Normally, it's a minimal technique for manufacturing small, accurate castings and refractory alloys that are using with respect to a molds formed, that too with respect to a wax or pattern, which are prepared with respect to the wax or similar materials. And after completion of that, those materials which are utilized for preparation of these patterns will have to be removed by melting process, supplying of the heat, and it has to be melted for removing with respect to the or detachment with respect to the standard material that we should have. Coming to its characteristics, because of utilizing this wax, we can achieve a reasonably accurate gas manufacturing in the case of this investment casting process. Moreover, it is applicable for a variety of materials with greater designs and difference or deviations in its dimensions. Refractory mold materials, and it allows the high melting temperature materials. Basically, the accuracy that is depends upon the original master pattern that we used for the molds. The materials such as nitriding steel, vinyl, beryllium, copper, tool steel are utilized in the case of this investment casting process. When compared to the die casting and sand casting process, this investment casting, the name itself clearly specifies the economical signification that incrementing in the cost, that the production cost is high, and that too is economical and complicated shape production. Coming to the rolling process, the straight and helical teeth of disc or rod type of external steel gears, which are displaying with the diagrams, that too with respect to small and medium diameters, then the modules, nothing but the gear profiles with respect to a particular dimensional ratios, which are generated either by the cold rolling or flat dice or circular dice. Considers in the case of this rolling process. Such kind of rolling imparts very high accuracy and surface integrity of tape, normally formed by the material flow, apart with respect to the cutting. So it is irrelevant with respect to the cutting process, and due to the rolling over the materials, the impregnations will be getting achieved over the material. Nominally, this gear rolling is employed for high productivity and achieving the high quality with respect to the machinery costs, which are relatively very much high. Very large size of the gears are formed by the hot rolling process, and then later on it is getting finished by reaching towards its recrystallization temperature, or else to the normal atmospheric range of temperatures. Coming to the powder metallurgy concept, it's a method of metal powder which is pressed in the dies in order to convert into tooth shape after the product is being sintered. Nothing but the powder at a exact proportional rate, it will be getting blended. Concerned solutions will be utilized for getting sintering concept. After sintering, the gear may be coined so as to increase the density and surface finishing. Normally, this powder metallurgy concept is utilized for getting only the small gas. See the process of serial order, blended powder, nothing but one powder and another powder for getting the good bonding nature as blended with each other, utilizing the edible solutions up to a required quantity, and compacted reset tooling, which is used for pressing. Getting the pre-sintering concept application of this pressing concept over here, and repress or coining, recentering concept, incorporation of this bonding heavily, and Finally, the gears will be getting manufactured. To meet its characteristics, its accuracy in the case of this manufacturing criteria will be very much similar to the die casting of gears. Material properties are tailor-made. Normally, these are suited for small sized of gears, economical for lot size only. Secondary machining is not at all required. Moreover, these kinds of metallurgy concepts will be utilized in the case of high quality gas manufacturing, application in toys, instruments, small motor drives, etc. Coming to the injection molding concept, producing of the parts by the injection molding as the material is transferred to the mold and cost heavy. Moreover, the material for the part is fed into the heating barrel, which is having utilized for combining with respect to the screws and is injected into the mold cavity and getting the required shapes. And after entering the material, it will be getting cooled and hardens in order to achieve the configuration of the gear. Typically, such kind of processes in such injection molding process, low precision gears that do in a small dimensional accuracies will be getting achieved. Which are having the greatest advantages, such as less in economical point of view and having the great ability to run without lubricant, even at the light loads of materials. Coming to the type of materials that are utilized in the case of this injection molding, or the nylon, cellulose, acetate, polystyrene, polyamide, phenolics, glasses, and mostly thermoplastic and thermosetting polymers will be utilized in the case of this injection molding for getting shapes as per the requirements. Most probably, the applications of this injection molding are used in cameras, projectors, windshield wipers, speedometers, lawn sprinklers, and washing machines. Cold drying process, which are used cold in the sense in the normal atmospheric range of temperature, the operational process will be getting done. Here, the bar which is being existing in between these dies will be getting drawn from the external side by decreasing with its diametrical concept. The materials such as brass, high carbon steels, bronze, aluminum, stainless steel, plus a major range in order to commence this kind of cold drying process for the transferring the material from one shape to the other shape. So farming is the technique that changing of its dimensions from one to another. The typical kind of applications are here: the manufacturing of the watches, electronic clocks, spring wound clocks, typewriters, taximeters, cameras, slot machines, etc. plays a major role in the case of this cold drying process. Normally, this extrusion is the type of process which is progressed with respect to the temperature characteristics. So extrusion is nothing but with respect to the ramp, nothing but our injection process. So applying the pressure at the ramp for injecting the material to form with respect to the finite shapes. Hence, the teeth of long rods are also used to get prepared here, which are getting with good surface finishing. Normally, the materials such as aluminum, copper, naval brass, ferrous metals, phosphorus, bronze will be utilized. Well, most probably the applications such as plain, hollow, and solid shafts and sector gears are manufactured in the case of this extrusion process. Stamping process, it's an easy process and used for key cutter, similar with respect to the key cutter. Normally, metal is placed between top and bottom portions of the die, and upper die will be getting pressed, and so that the lower sections and will be attaining with respect to the required dimensions. Normally, there is a low cost in the case of this operational methodology, and will be producing lightweight of gears only, but not the maximum, and even the thickness also will be very much less in the case of this manufacturing processes. The materials used in this platform are this low and medium carbon steels, brasses, aluminum alloys, etc. The materials such as toys, cloths, and type of mechanisms, watches, etc. will be facing in. It's a goal for manufacturing in the case of this stamping process. The rest of the goal work process we will be discussing in the